The 11th rule of a meaningful life establishes a principle about development and growth. Seeking mastery, genuine deep competence in domains that matter to you, creates compounding advantage and meaning that surface-level competence never provides. The person who pursues mastery in something, who develops genuine expertise through years of deliberate practice, often achieves more than the person pursuing many things superficially. Mastery is not a destination but a direction. The commitment to continuous improvement, to deeper understanding, to refined skill compounds over time into genuine excellence. This rule recognizes that mastery is rare. Most people develop surface-level competence in their field and stop. They know enough to perform their job but not enough to excel. They understand a subject well enough to seem knowledgeable but not deeply enough to innovate. They've developed basic skills but not the refined skills that come from deliberate practice. The person pursuing mastery is willing to invest years becoming genuinely excellent at something that matters. The principle operates through understanding that mastery creates capability that basic competence cannot. The person with mastery understands not just the what but the why. They understand patterns that others miss. They can adapt and innovate because they understand principles deeply. They can solve problems that others cannot because they have deep knowledge. This capability is built through sustained deliberate practice. The mechanism also involves understanding that mastery is built through deliberate practice, focused practice designed to improve specific aspects of performance, not through mere repetition. The person doing the same thing the same way for years develops little. The person deliberately practicing to improve specific aspects, getting feedback, adjusting, and practicing again develops genuine mastery. This deliberate practice is uncomfortable and often boring, but it's what builds mastery. The rule also recognizes that mastery creates intrinsic motivation. The person pursuing mastery for external rewards, money, status, recognition, often gives up when the rewards don't materialize. The person pursuing mastery for the sake of mastery itself, who finds the process itself engaging, maintains motivation through the difficult years required to develop genuine excellence. The rule also recognizes that mastery creates meaning. The person who has developed genuine mastery at something they care about experiences meaning in that mastery. They understand themselves as someone genuinely excellent at something. This identity and this mastery create satisfaction that surface-level competence cannot. Successfully implementing this rule requires understanding what constitutes deliberate practice and how mastery develops. The first principle of deliberate practice is to focus on improving specific weaknesses. You identify what you're not good at and you practice that specifically. You don't just practice the overall skill, you deliberately focus on the specific aspects that need improvement. The second principle is getting feedback on your performance. You need to know whether your practice is actually improving your performance. This requires feedback from others, coaches, teachers, mentors, who can assess your performance objectively and tell you what needs to improve. The third principle is making adjustments based on feedback. You practice, you get feedback, you adjust your approach, and you practice again. This cycle of practice feedback adjustment is what builds mastery. The person practicing without adjusting their approach based on feedback doesn't improve significantly. The fourth principle is practicing at the edge of your capability. You practice things that are challenging but not overwhelming. The person practicing things that are too easy doesn't develop. The person practicing things that are too difficult becomes frustrated. The person practicing at the edge of capability develops fastest. The fifth principle is sustained commitment over years. Mastery is not developed in months. It typically requires years of sustained deliberate practice. The person who practices consistently for years develops mastery. The person practicing occasionally develops little. The sixth principle is understanding the domain deeply. Mastery requires not just skill but understanding the history of the field, understanding the principles underlying the field, understanding how different elements relate to each other. This deep understanding allows innovation and adaptation. The seventh principle is maintaining high standards. The person pursuing mastery maintains high standards for their work. They're not satisfied with good enough. they continuously refine and improve. This refusal to accept mediocrity is what drives continued improvement toward mastery. Throughout history, figures who achieved mastery and created significant contributions typically invested years in deliberate practice. One striking example comes from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart is famous as a child prodigy, but his mastery came through years of deliberate practice. His father, also a musician, deliberately trained Mozart through focused practice. Mozart composed thousands of works, many of which were learning pieces or experiments. Through this deliberate practice, composing, getting feedback, revising, composing again, Mozart developed mastery that allowed him to create his most significant works. Similarly, in athletic contexts, elite athletes typically invest years in deliberate practice. The Olympic athlete didn't suddenly become elite. They invested years of focused practice, training under coaches, receiving feedback, adjusting technique. This deliberate practice over years is what developed their elite capability. In artistic fields, masters typically invest years developing their craft. The painter developing mastery paints thousands of paintings, many of which are learning pieces. The writer developing mastery writes thousands of pages, many of which are practice. This sustained deliberate practice is what develops mastery. In intellectual fields, scholars who made significant contributions typically invested years mastering their fields. They studied deeply, experimented with ideas, received feedback from peers, refined their thinking. This years-long deliberate practice is what allowed their significant contributions. In business, entrepreneurs who built significant companies often had years of experience, sometimes failures, before their major success. They learned through deliberate effort in previous ventures what would work in their successful venture. In contemporary professional environments, people who pursue mastery in their field often become the most valuable and most respected professionals. The professional continuously learning, continuously improving, continuously practicing deliberately in their field often becomes the expert. The professional doing their job adequately but not pursuing mastery remains adequate. In creative fields, creators who pursue mastery, who study their craft deeply, who practice deliberately, who maintain high standards, often create more significant work. The creator pursuing mastery often becomes influential. The creator doing adequate work often remains unnoticed. In athletic and physical pursuits, people who pursue mastery through deliberate training often excel. The athlete training deliberately, focusing on specific improvements, maintaining high standards, often becomes elite. The person exercising without deliberate focus often remains average. In learning and intellectual development, students who pursue mastery, who study deeply, who ask questions, who practice applying concepts, develop deeper understanding. The student doing minimum required work develops surface understanding. In skill development, people who pursue mastery, learning to play instruments, to write, to program, to teach, through deliberate practice often develop genuine excellence. The person practicing occasionally develops little. In professional advancement, people who develop genuine mastery in valuable domains often advance significantly. Their mastery makes them valuable and distinguishes them from peers. In relationships and communication, people who pursue mastery of relationship and communication skills, studying deeply, practicing deliberately, getting feedback, often develop far superior relationship skills that improve their lives significantly. In leadership, leaders who pursue mastery, who study leadership deeply, who practice deliberately, who get feedback from others, develop far more effective leadership. The leader who assumes they already know how to lead often remains mediocre. Understanding the specific path to mastery helps implement this rule. The first step is choosing a domain worth mastering. Mastery requires years of investment. You need to choose something that matters to you enough to invest years in it. This might be your professional field, a craft you're passionate about, a skill that serves something you care about. The second step is committing to the years required. Mastery is not a quick process. Most mastery requires at least 5 to 10 years of focused deliberate practice. The person expecting to become an expert quickly is disappointed. The person committing to years of development often achieves mastery. The third step is finding people who can help you. You need mentors or teachers who have developed mastery in the domain and who can guide your practice. You need feedback on your performance from people who understand the domain deeply. The fourth step is deliberately practicing to improve specific weaknesses. You identify what needs improvement and you practice that specifically. You're not just practicing the overall skill, you're deliberately focusing on specific aspects. The fifth step is maintaining high standards. You're not satisfied with good enough. You continuously refine and improve. You notice when your work falls short of your standards and you work to improve it. The sixth step is balancing confidence with humility. You need confidence that mastery is possible for you. You also need humility to recognize how much you still don't know, to remain open to feedback, to acknowledge that others know things you don't. The seventh step is understanding the domain deeply. You study the history of the field. You understand the principles underlying the field. You understand how different elements relate. This deep understanding allows innovation within the domain. The primary challenge in implementing this rule is the time investment required. Mastery requires years. In a culture that rewards speed and quick results, committing years to becoming excellent at something feels inefficient. But mastery is exactly what creates compounding advantage over decades. The challenge also involves the sustained motivation required. In the middle years of developing mastery, when you're still not excellent but you've already invested years, motivation can flag. The person maintaining motivation through this difficult middle period often achieves mastery. The person giving up in the difficult middle period doesn't. The challenge also involves tolerating the beginner phase. When you start pursuing mastery in something, you're initially bad at it. The person willing to be bad initially, who doesn't expect immediate excellence, develops mastery. The person expecting to be good immediately often quits when they're not. The challenge also involves finding genuine mentors or teachers who can guide your development. Not all teachers are good. Not all mentors are genuine. Finding people who have developed mastery themselves, and who can effectively guide your development requires effort. The challenge also involves resisting the trap of thinking you know enough. The person thinking they've achieved mastery and stops improving often stagnates. Genuine mastery includes continuous improvement and recognition that there's always more to learn. Rule 11 might seem to advocate such narrow focus that you develop nothing else. The resolution is understanding that you can pursue mastery in something while maintaining basic competence in other important areas. You might pursue mastery in your profession while maintaining basic competence in health, relationships, finance, and other areas. The sophisticated approach involves choosing one or two domains for mastery pursuit, while maintaining broader baseline competence in other important areas. You concentrate your years-long focus practice on domains that matter most while maintaining adequate capability in other domains. With Rule 7 about defining your own success, pursuing mastery means choosing domains for mastery that matter to you, not domains society says you should master. With Rule 8 about process, pursuing mastery is fundamentally about process, the deliberate practice itself, rather than about achieving mastery as an outcome. Rule 11 establishes that seeking mastery, genuine deep competence in domains that matter, creates compounding advantage and meaning over time. The person who pursues mastery through years of deliberate practice often achieves extraordinary excellence. The person pursuing many things superficially achieves little in any. Master this rule by choosing domains worth mastering, by committing to the years required, by finding mentors who can guide your development, by practicing deliberately to improve specific weaknesses, by maintaining high standards, by understanding domains deeply, and by balancing confidence with humility. The 11th rule of life, then, is really a rule about investing in genuine excellence through sustained deliberate effort. Those who master it understand that mastery requires years of focused practice, that the process of deliberate practice is more important than rapid results, and that genuine expertise creates both capability and meaning. Seek mastery in domains that matter to you, commit to the years required, and you'll discover that the compounding power of sustained deliberate practice creates excellence that surface-level competence could never achieve.